What he found, which was intriguing as well, is that as he worked with clients, he saw alchemical imagery emerging in the dreams and in the visualization exercises of clients. So this symbolic dimension of transformation, as he was learning through alchemy, was something that seemed to have a resonance unconsciously in a lot of people. Because ultimately that process of transformation, transmutation, seems to be a natural endeavor of evolution. It's a process that we're all going through. We're constantly going through transformation, transform to change the form, to change the way that we do things. And so behaviorally, psychologically, ethically, we're seeking to transform ourselves from lead into gold to a better state of being, to become better individuals. And that, for Jung, became the basis of understanding individuation as the ultimate objective of his psychology, that the individual is capable of expanding consciousness in order to integrate themselves entirely, a more total, a more global state of consciousness, which obviously as an objective or a destination is very grand, let's say. I mean, it's almost nirvanic. We're talking about enlightenment. But what he discovered through his work in alchemy in particular is that consciousness is not a destination, rather a process. And so this transformation, this evolution, this progression that we're going through as human beings is continuous. We can imagine a destination, we can imagine nirvana. If you read the Buddhist texts, there's ways of understanding it, but usually the explanations are very symbolic, because our state of consciousness right now, we can't understand what that means. But that's an idea of perfection that perhaps the ego is attracted to. Perfection isn't terribly useful. I don't even know what perfection is. In this manifested world of time and space, there's really no such thing as perfect. So, in a way, we can leave ourselves off the hook. There's no perfect. What we can all do is improve. I think we can say that much. There's no barrier to entry on the idea of improvement, self-improvement, self-development. But that process then, it's a process. There's a methodology and there's stages of exploration and development that we go through. And Jung correlated these stages as he developed them in his own theories with what he was discovering in alchemy. And so there's three stages then that he elaborates on. The first is Nigredo, or blackness, or the blackening. This is the first stage in the alchemical process where the alchemist heats the material up in their famous alchemical oven until it goes black. This represents the first stage for Jung of individuation, where the person starts to break down the barriers of the ego and starts to engage with the shadow or the inner self, these challenges that we have. We start to work with the inner material. So we're breaking down the barriers between the conscious and the unconscious. This is a stage that is often accompanied by a certain depression or melancholy, the dark night of the soul. There's often a certain disillusionment in this process, which is why most people avoid it, because there's a natural need to shed a certain image of ourselves, certain preconceived ideas perhaps, assumptions about ourselves. We all have a certain image of ourselves. Jung talks about the persona, this mask, this projection that we have in the world that we want to have accepted. But when we start to look inside and really do some inner work, we start to see there's a lot of contradictions there, and we start to see naturally that we're not all we thought we were. This can create a certain disillusionment. But that idea of melancholy or disillusionment philosophically is not a negative thing. It's a natural process that we have to go through in order to become stronger. If we use the symbol of the phoenix as a very typical example of that, to rise from our own ashes, well, we have to become ashes first. In a way, we can't get stronger without deconstructing ourselves a little bit. It's a constant process. And so this disillusionment is a positive thing, because disillusioning ourselves, we're getting rid of an illusion. In the search for wisdom, naturally, we're going to have to shed certain illusions about ourselves and about the world. It can be daunting at first, and it can be difficult because there's a certain psychological impact in doing that. But ultimately, it's a necessary process in transformation that helps us to gain a deeper, more authentic knowledge of who we are. After the blackness is the whiteness, albedo, or the whitening. The next stage in the process where the alchemist sees white flecks starting to appear in the mixture, which eventually crystallize as white stone.